For 16 years, the girl believed she had lived the right way and never imagined herself walking a dangerous path. Yet now, she finds herself heading straight into a future she never expected. To understand how we got here, the scene shifts to the school courtyard, where two girls are arguing. As the dispute continues, a third girl with her hair in a ponytail approaches and asks what's going on. The dark-haired girl answers first, explaining that something involving Takazato happened earlier, while the straight-haired girl adds her side, mentioning Kino Yami. The girl with the ponytail listens to both of them and considers how the situation might have been misunderstood. She reflects on how Takazato's firm way of speaking may have contributed to the issue and points out that unclear communication can easily create confusion. Both girls fall silent for a moment, reflecting on her words. The girl with the ponytail shares her opinion, pointing out that both of them made mistakes, but also had valid reasons. The straight-haired girl responds by calling her Mama Mickey, while the black-haired girl looks at her with admiration and agrees. In the end, both accept her judgment, saying she truly seems like Mama Mickey in that moment. Nearby, two boys who have been observing the scene comment to each other. One of them notes that her handling of the situation matches what they expected from Mama Mickey, impressed by the way she manages the disagreement. She is Rine Mickey, known around Shizurugaoka High as someone who behaves like a mum for many students. He mentions that she gives the impression of being someone who would attract attention from boys, yet he believes she is not in a relationship. The other boy reacts with surprise, unable to imagine that detail at first. The dark-haired boy says her looks are too striking, which might influence how others see her. The other boy thinks her appearance is fine, but feels her caring nature makes her seem more like a guardian than a potential romantic partner. Later that same day, the other boy walks home together with Rini. As they move along the road, he begins sharing his thoughts about the reason Chihaya believes she does not attract attention from boys. Rini reacts with confusion, surprised that he brings up such a topic, and she questions why he suddenly speaks in such a manner. Chihaya continues explaining that he has considered this matter for several years. He reflects on how she has always behaved kindly and politely. He also mentions that even when she was younger, her appearance was never lacking, which makes him wonder why boys do not approach her. Rina listens and briefly shows her appreciation, but Chihaya continues, pointing something out about her. He says she falls between different expectations. Surprised, she asks what he means. Chihaya explains that boys who like gentle, caring girls prefer a simple, neat look, while boys who like bold girls expect a striking presence. She fits between these types, so no group of boys is drawn to her. Rina reacts to this explanation and considers his words harsh, but he insists that he is giving sincere guidance. He tells her to choose either a style that matches a calmer image or a manner that aligns with a more noticeable appearance, suggesting that doing so would broaden her possibilities. She wonders about this idea of the world opening for her, and he tells her that she prefers a quiet and limited life. He concludes that with such a mindset, she will not become popular among boys. Rini, however, accepts this outcome and expresses that she is comfortable with it. After returning home, she sits down and applies nail polish to her toes. While doing this, she reflects on how she has never attracted attention from boys throughout her life. She looks at her freshly painted nails and thinks they appear nicely done. She considers how others describe her appearance as too noticeable, yet Renee knows she simply enjoys clothing and accessories that follow stylish trends. As she continues, she thinks about how wearing socks hides the nails from view, knowing that the rules at school are not strict, but the students would still react strongly if they noticed something as bright as her nails. Rini then thinks about the reason she behaves so caringly. She remembers that for many years she has taken care of younger children in her neighborhood, which shaped her gentle habits. Realizing this, she suddenly feels she should address the situation in some way. She thinks about her daily behavior and feels satisfied with how normal she is, without any dissatisfaction toward her own nature. Still, she focuses on the idea of being liked by boys and on what is considered appealing or expected. Even so, she concludes that she does not feel concerned about those expectations and does not place importance on trying to meet them. During the Shizurugaoka festival, she is working at her assigned area. While she continues with her tasks, two of her friends rush toward her and ask for her assistance. Rina turns to them and tries to understand the situation. They explain that 3 girls from the midday shift were approached by others and then walked off, leaving responsibilities behind. Rini listens and prepares to help however she can. Her friends, seeing that the shop area is functioning smoothly, rely on her once again. They tell her that she needs to go to the North School building to handle both the search for missing participants and recruitment-related matters. She is also to bring back anyone who should be present. Before she leaves, they hand her an outfit and instruct her to wear it, explaining that their group is operating as a themed cafe. Rini looks at the outfit and realizes it resembles the clothing of a much younger student. This makes her question the reasoning behind such a choice and whether it is meant as a tactic for the event. Nearby, the rest of her friends talk among themselves. They comment on how she naturally gives off a nurturing presence even while dressed in an outfit that makes her appear younger. They remark that her hairstyle adds to the impression, making her seem like a small child once again. Rin prepares herself, accepts the tasks, and decides to head toward the North School building. As she begins to walk, the others watch her and react to her appearance, finding her unexpectedly charming in the costume. She thinks about how unusual those earlier remarks felt to her. She cannot even tell if they were meant positively and wonders if something is wrong with her. On the way, she notices a girl whose papers have fallen to the ground. Renee bends down, gathers the scattered sheets, arranges them properly, and returns them to her. After that, she continues walking. A little ahead, two boys are attaching a signboard to a cart and discussing how one of the fasteners had come loose. Rinna stops and helps them as well. When they thank her, she listens quietly and prepares to continue on her way. The same girl from earlier notes how pale Renee looks and suggests she rest. She adds that our girl seems surprisingly thoughtful for someone who looks so young. Renee tries to explain, but the girl keeps comparing her to people her own age before walking away. After walking a bit more, Renee reaches the building and pauses. She reflects on how people keep treating her like an older caretaker, even though they still confuse her for someone younger. She thinks about how she feels even more like a caretaker than she intends to be. She also finds it unusual for someone her age. Standing there, she decides that she will avoid stepping in to assist others unnecessarily from now on. As she continues along the path, she notices a child who appears weighed down by something. She studies him for a moment and wonders if he is unwell, but then realizes he is rapidly flipping through a pamphlet. She considers whether he might be unsure of where to go. His casual clothing makes her think he is likely a guest, and his age seems close to someone in middle school. With that in mind, she believes that assisting a visitor falls under what a student should normally do. She feels confident approaching him. She walks over and checks if he is facing any issues, offering to figure things out with him. He explains that he is not sure of his way. Rinny observes his appearance and notes that his voice is higher and his skin looks soft, leading her to think carefully about his age. He shares that he has already reached out to his family but has not received any confirmation from them yet. He mentions that he came for an early-stage admission test but ended up separated from them. Hearing this, Rinny thinks about the admission test and concludes he must indeed be a middle schooler. She compares him to the boys in her own class, who seem more mature, and reflects on how much difference 2 years can make. The kid then asks about her situation and wonders if her guardians are nearby, thinking she might also be lost. Renee realizes that he assumes she is younger than she is. She answers that her guardians are not present at the moment. The boy expresses relief, believing that someone her age being lost makes his own situation feel less embarrassing. Rin agrees outwardly, thinking she cannot respond any differently given the atmosphere between them. After this, the boy prepares to leave. He suggests that they move around the area together while they look for both of their families. Rini hesitates, thinking about how she appears, but then realizes that staying away from her own classmates would make it less complicated. She also remembers that she is supposed to invite people for an activity and thinks she can manage that at the same time. After considering it, she agrees. The boy reacts with clear excitement. They enter the festival grounds together. She notices how genuinely delighted he looks and reminds herself to behave in a way that helps him feel comfortable. She tells herself that it is only for the day, though she feels uneasy about not being honest regarding her age. Her conscience aches slightly because of the false impression she allowed him to believe. The boy then introduces himself as Toma Ichinose and asks for her name. Rine does not catch it immediately and has to refocus before giving her own name as Rine Miki. When Toma repeats it, he wonders aloud about a shortened version of her name, Kirin. Rinny thinks about it and admits she has never been addressed that way. She finds the idea pleasant and prefers it over being compared to a caretaker. She encourages him to use the nickname. Toma comments on the meaning connected to his own name and notes that their names together sound like something humorous. Rini responds lightly. He says he's glad to meet her using the new nickname. She thinks to herself that it's an unusual name for her. Rina dwells on how it is the first time a boy has ever addressed her in such a familiar way. She then returns his greeting and acknowledges him. Toma calls out to her again, using the nickname. While she wipes her eyes, he checks on her. She explains that she is simply unfamiliar with being addressed like that and feels slightly self-conscious. Toma asks if it troubles her and reacts with amusement at her response. Rina admits internally that she is also not accustomed to those kinds of words. At that moment, she hears her name being called from behind. When she turns, she sees Chihaya approaching. Rene quickly grabs his hand and pulls him aside, trying to steer him away. Once they are out of the boy's view, she asks why he is there. Chihaya mentions that the class is running a costume cafe and comments on her outfit. Rene firmly instructs him not to interact with anything related to the situation, not to involve himself further, and to forget whatever he has just seen. Chihaya offers to buy her a large amount of takoyaki, and Rene accepts the offer. After that, she returns to Toma and apologizes to him. He asks Rin if she knows the boy, and she explains that he is someone she has known since childhood. Toma comments on the idea of childhood friends and wonders if she tends to be more interested in boys closer to high school age. Rine internally corrects him, imagining his friend as a middle schooler. She thinks about Chihaya Ninomiya and reflects that any connection with him could appear suspicious if Toma misunderstood. She decides that age doesn't matter when it comes to feelings for someone. She thinks that liking a person should be based on their character, not their age. She remembers that her parents have a 2-year age difference and that she has never had romantic feelings for that boy. Even without any personal experience in love, she concludes that falling in love isn't about age. Toma says this makes him feel better, and Rina quietly agrees in her mind. Her phone starts ringing, reminding her that she had forgotten several things. She quickly contacts her friends, checking if everything is okay. They respond that it is fine and mention that there is some cake left for her to eat when she returns. They explain that the event has ended and everything has been sold out. Toma notices her reaction and asks if she needs to take care of anything. Rina realizes that everything has turned out well. He then suggests that they continue walking together. She agrees and guides him as they move toward another part of the festival. While walking, Rin reflects on how relieved she feels that her classmates returned safely and that their event was successful. She notices that she does not want the time spent with Toma to end yet. A small part of her feels warm at the thought of the moment she is sharing with him. She acknowledges that she is going along with the moment and decides to exchange contact information with him. After that, they share their details. Rine wonders about where he lives and whether it is near the school she visited before. She observes him focusing on his studies, noting that he has been using his mind actively and must be tired. She finds it considerate of him. Soon, his messages begin arriving rapidly, and he asks her to join him at the autumn festival later in the week. She believes that the upcoming outing could almost feel like a date, but she quickly reminds herself that she has very little experience with situations like this. Her thoughts are becoming exaggerated. She considers that simply being together does not automatically make it a date. She recalls that she has spent time with Chihaya before, without any romantic implications. She questions the distinction between spending time together casually and what might be considered a date. Rini then realizes that her current concern is not about labeling the situation, but about whether she genuinely wants to go and see him. After thinking it over, she decides that she does want to meet him. Feeling certain about her decision, she prepares herself to go. She decides that if she is going to continue spending time with Toma, even as friends, she does not want to keep hiding who she really is. She wants him to see her as she usually appears, not in the middle school outfit she had been wearing. As she arrives at the meeting spot, Toma notices her and comments on how mature she looks today. Rini explains that this is her normal attire. She asks if he came dressed as usual, and he replies that he was delayed by his club activities and arrived from school in his regular clothes. He mentions that although he belongs to the chemistry club, he spent the day working with the crafts club, helping clean and organize the craft room and making slime. Rini thinks to herself that he is still very much a middle schooler, a fully fledged one, and realizes that the examination he mentioned must be the preliminary test for middle school admission. She notes that he seems very busy, probably preparing for the entrance exams. Toma then puts on his mask and takes her hand, guiding her a short distance forward. He stands directly in front of her, holding her hand and looking into her eyes. He explains that he is working hard on his exams, which means there will be days ahead when they cannot meet. He assures her that he will send messages daily and spend as much time with her as possible. As he moves closer to remove his mask, Rina instinctively steps back, feeling that he is acting unusually close. She realizes that the situation is creating a sense of affection, the kind that might be expected between people who are more than friends. Toma reminds her that she had agreed to accompany him, and she reflects that she had not considered he might interpret that as spending time in a more personal way. She realizes that he still sees her as younger than she really is, which complicates how she responds. Toma steps directly in front of Rini again, holding her face gently with both hands. He confesses that he has loved her all this time since they first met, and promises to take good care of her, even if his usual appearance is relatively flashy. Then, he kisses her. Toma holds Rina close, finally expressing the feelings he has kept inside for so long and admitting he has cared for her from the beginning. When he leans in toward her, she stops him and steps back, hesitating. Her reaction leaves him thinking that the look on her face is something he cannot handle. At that moment, Rina remembers there is something she must take care of. She apologizes and decides to leave for the day. Toma is mildly surprised but accepts it. As she walks away, he calls out, reminding her that it is already dark and offering to walk with her. She declines, saying she is fine. He calls out once more, telling her he will contact her later as she continues walking away. When she reaches home, she sits alone, overwhelmed by how unexpectedly everything unfolded. Before she can fully process it, she realizes that someone has confessed to her for the first time. She now finds herself in a situation she has never experienced before. She tries to gather her thoughts, but everything remains scattered, especially because she knows he is younger. She settles at her desk and examines the matter seriously. The age gap becomes the first point she considers. She compares her age to different ranges, marking what feels acceptable and what does not. She notes the group close to her age, then the slightly younger one, and finally the point where it becomes too young, where it stops feeling appropriate. She studies these lower ranges carefully, fully aware that they lie outside what she can allow. She realizes how close she had been to stepping into something unsafe. The awareness settles heavily, and she knows she cannot continue this. While lost in thought, a notification appears. Toma asks if she reached home safely and reminds her to stay warm so she does not fall ill. Reading his gentle message, she remembers how she left early, yet he still speaks kindly. Another line says he will try to make time despite everything and that she may sometimes feel lonely because of it. He promises to treat her kindly. She realizes he truly means well and does not want to hurt him. She replies briefly, saying she arrived home and apologizing for how the day went. When he reads her message immediately, she slips back into her thoughts. She knows she must handle this, but every approach feels too harsh. She thinks about telling him that she can't continue or that she never intended to start anything, but she can't bring herself to say it outright. She imagines how he might react if he learns she's older than he thinks. He could feel misled or lose trust in people. She worries that the impact might be too much for him. After thinking all night, she chooses the quietest method she can. When he messages again, asking if they can meet the next night, she replies that she is unwell. He asks if she is free on Sunday and suggests eating near the station. She apologizes again, saying she is unavailable. Internally, she admits she is choosing the slowest way to withdraw, letting the connection fade naturally. Her thoughts circle endlessly as she convinces herself that in time, he will stop reaching out. Another message arrives asking if he can call her. Later, she explains she was occupied. He apologizes politely, and she realizes this pattern will eventually make the messages fade. She then sends him a note saying she saw flowers that suit him, adding a small confession of affection and an apology. She feels she has reached her limit and cannot find another path. On her way, she runs into Chihaya, who reminds her of the food she promised him. She had forgotten and acknowledges it softly. He insists she made a promise, but she tells him she cannot today because she feels unwell and has no appetite. He studies her face and asks if something has happened. She thinks she is exhausted from pretending, yet she continues because the situation requires it. As Chihaya talks, another message from Toma appears, asking if she has a moment and saying he wants to see her briefly. Another message follows, mentioning the area where she lives and saying he will search for her if necessary. He describes how he will go through the place section by section until he finds her. She is startled by the idea, thinking only someone his age would plan something like that. She wonders how large he imagines the area to be and compares his determination to searching for insects. She cannot allow a student preparing for exams to wander around like this. She quickly replies, telling him to wait while she prepares and that she will come out to meet him. She goes to a small park near the nearest station, thinking it matches the kind of place someone his age might choose and that fewer people will see them. At the park, Toma sits alone on a swing. When he notices Rina, he gets up and approaches her. She feels uneasy for choosing a spot this far, but he shows no concern. She realizes she came here impulsively and now struggles to begin. Before she can speak, Toma lowers his head and apologizes, convinced she is upset. He believes he must have caused it by leaning in earlier, assuming she avoided him for that reason. He explains he came only to say this and apologizes again. Rina knows he misunderstood. She reaches out to his shoulder and tells him he does not need to feel guilty. She feels she should be the one apologizing for leaving so suddenly and treating him unfairly afterward. She reflects that both of them struggle with interactions, making mistakes yet also doing some things right. She reassures him he does not need to carry the worry alone and regrets causing him concern. He responds by commenting on her kindness. She realizes her instinct to take responsibility has surfaced again, shifting her original intention. Toma then extends his hand and suggests they resolve things with a simple gesture, adjusting his words to a handshake. Rini accepts, since it is nothing more than that, and they join hands. As their palms meet, she notices the warmth in his fingertips and feels a strange tension rise in her chest. They stand together in the quiet park, still holding hands. At that moment, Chihaya happens to pass by. He notices them immediately and reacts with surprise, seeing them standing close with their hands joined. Rina senses the shift, aware he may question what he is seeing. This scene may reveal their age difference far sooner than she intended. Chihaya approaches the two of them and asks what they are doing. Rini becomes irritated and grabs him by the front of his shirt, demanding to know why he is following her. He quickly explains that he is not trailing her and is only returning home from work. Toma steps in and asks if Chihaya might be her friend from childhood. Chihaya confirms it. Toma introduces himself, mentioning that he is in his 6th year of elementary school and that he is allowed to be in a relationship with Rina. Hearing this, Chihaya reacts sharply. Rine, still annoyed, says they will talk about it later. Chihaya turns to leave, mentioning that he will head home before it gets dark. Before leaving, he acknowledges Toma and says he will see him another time. After Chihaya leaves, Rine stands there reflecting on what just happened. She realizes that keeping what he witnessed a secret will cost her 300 pieces of takoyaki. Toma then turns to Rine and asks about her relationship with the friend she has known since childhood. Rine explains that it is not that they get along poorly, but that they remain connected in a way neither of them can fully avoid. Toma takes her hand, giving a reminder of the bond he believes they share. Rina feels the firmness of his grip and, while thinking about it, tells him that she is not what he assumes her to be. Later, Chihaya and Rine sit together playing a video game. He grows frustrated because he cannot solve anything in the game. Rine comments that this outcome is typical for the situation. He reacts even more irritably, saying that what just happened feels like something from a short comedic routine. Rina remarks that he laughs excessively. He insists that he is genuinely troubled, not amused. Feeling irritated, Chihaya uses a strong character against her in the game. Rini immediately asks him to stop, and he apologizes afterward. The ranking screen appears, showing Rini in first place, Chihaya in second, and Mamiani in third. Chihaya then asks what she intends to do next. Rine, contemplating her situation, says that she feels she should end her current relationship soon. Chihaya tells her that it is not about what she thinks she is supposed to do, but about what she truly wants. Rini, tired and uncertain, struggles to respond. Chihaya suggests that she could simply choose to be with the boy involved. He adds that he personally has no objection to it. Rin immediately rejects the idea. She begins listing the qualities she notices in Toma, mentioning that he is considerate, kind, and youthful, yet surprisingly mature despite their large age difference. Chihaya listens and points out that she has focused on the matter of age for quite some time. He asks if it is possible that she actually has feelings for the boy himself. Rina reacts with confusion, unsure what he means. Chihaya questions her reaction. She explains that she has never experienced being in love and does not understand what romantic feelings should feel like. He then mentions how her heart seems to react when she is with Toma and how she seems pleased whenever she gets a chance to see him. She denies it at first, but admits that her heartbeat has quickened around Toma before. She thinks it might be because he acted toward her in ways unfamiliar to her. When Chihaya asks what he did, she recalls that Toma backed her against a wall. Suddenly, Chihaya gets up and does the wall slam while standing close in front of her. He asks how she feels in that moment. Rini thinks and realizes that she feels irritation and the urge to strike him. Chihaya acknowledges this and points out that when Toma acted this way toward her, her heartbeat accelerated, showing that the boy means something different. After saying this, he moves away and sits on the sofa. Rini stays standing near him, considering everything he just said. Chihaya advises her that she needs to avoid doing anything careless that could trouble or hurt Toma, especially because he is preparing for important examinations. He reminds her that this period is significant for him. Rini thinks seriously about his words and realizes he is right. As she leaves, she decides that she cannot allow Toma to become concerned about her or let his situation fall apart because of her presence. She resolves that, at least until his exams are finished, she must avoid complicating things. Before going, she wishes him good night and decides to act appropriately for someone in his stage of life. She plans to meet him at their usual spot, intending to behave simply and friendly without creating unnecessary confusion. Later, Renee receives a message from Toma asking if they can meet after school. She goes to see him and he greets her warmly, saying it feels like a long time since their last meeting. She reminds him that they actually saw each other only 2 days earlier and even the previous week. He hesitates but explains that the day they did not meet felt extremely long to him. Renee reflects on their differing sense of time, realizing that a younger student experiences the day in a slower, more stretched-out way due to constant new information and developing memory. She recalls feeling the same when she was in elementary school. Toma then asks if he may touch her, and Renee initially feels confused before realizing he means her hand. She offers it with a small smile and says it is fine if it is only that, thinking he does not need permission every time as long as it stays within appropriate boundaries. Even something so simple makes her heartbeat react. Toma presses his palms against hers, and she becomes aware of how deliberate and focused his touch feels. The sensation makes her wonder why it feels so intense. Suddenly, he lifts her hand and places a light kiss on it. Startled, Renee quickly pulls her hand back, confused by her reaction. He apologizes and explains that her hand felt cold, so he thought about warming it. Renee tells him she is sensitive to cold temperatures. She notices that her body feels noticeably warmer afterward and is surprised by the sudden change. The two sit together on a bench. Renee watches him quietly, noting how naturally and without hesitation he behaves. She reminds herself that 4 months remain before his exams and wonders whether her heart will be able to handle everything until then. She asks about his studies, mentioning that they have been meeting frequently and wanting to ensure he is managing well. Toma explains that he already received a strong evaluation for Shizuru Gaoka during the spring tests. Renee tells him he should still remain careful, though he does not seem to be in any real difficulty. She is surprised by his performance and asks if he could aim for a more competitive school, including well-known ones in the city. She wonders aloud if he might simply be naturally gifted. Toma answers that he believes he could be accepted into those schools as well, but he wants to choose Shizuru Gaoka because it is where he first encountered her. He is determined to pass the entrance exam for that reason. He adds that he does not want the girl he cares for to see him in a situation where he appears unsuccessful, strengthening his determination. Renee is shaken inside, realizing she has already influenced his future in a way she never intended. Currently, she feels like Kiran, the elementary student, and if she were to mention a possibility, he might agree without hesitation. She tells him that she plans to attend a nearby public middle school. Hearing this, Toma immediately says that he wants to abandon the exam and follow her to the same school. Renee panics internally and decides that if he ever seriously asks, she will find a gentle way to prevent it. Out loud, she tells him to do his best and that she will support him. Toma reacts as though such encouragement is heavier than she realizes. He explains that when people like his cram school instructor give similar advice, the pressure can feel overwhelming, but when support comes from someone he truly cares about, it affects him differently. He places his hand over hers and thanks her, using the name he knows her by. Inside, Renee feels a deep warmth and admits to herself that it is impossible not to be genuinely happy when he expresses himself so honestly. She wishes she could respond properly. She wonders if they had been the same age. Maybe they could have attended the same school and openly been together. They eventually start walking side by side and when their paths separate, say their goodbyes. Once home, Renee continues thinking about how things might have been if their ages matched and whether they could have shared school life and gone out without hiding anything. She wonders why it has to be this way, with her as a high school student. Renee sits at her dressing table, looking at her nail polishes, thinking about which shade to use. Since it is the weekend, she considers a bright neon color and matching it with a similar shade for her toes. She looks at more muted tones, wondering if a natural skin-colored option or soft pink might be better. She questions whether bold colors would be too noticeable. She then wonders what shade Toma would prefer. She applies the color to her nails and observes the result, thinking that he might react positively. Seeing her finished nails, she finds them charming. Later, Renee meets Toma at a coffee shop. He notices her nails and comments, comparing the color to flowers blooming in the school's garden during spring. Renee reacts to his observation and listens as he recalls the type of flowers they resemble. She asks if he likes the shade, and he tells her it suits her well, adding that most things look good on her anyway. Inside, Renee feels delighted because he approves of the color she chose. She realizes this might be the first time he has casually touched her nails, and the thought stays with her as she sits with him. One day at school, Renee checks her phone and sees a message from Toma sent the previous night. She notices he has not viewed her reply yet, which feels unusual. She goes through her morning routine, with classmates greeting her and making casual remarks about physical education and lunch plans. She continues thinking about why Toma has not responded. She wonders if he might be occupied and tells herself it is just ordinary conversation. A notification appears, and she reads his message. He apologizes, saying nothing serious happened. He explains that he was absent during the second period's physical education class and rested in the infirmary. Renee becomes alarmed and asks if he is all right. He assures her he is fine and only lacked sleep the previous night. He explains that all he did was rest, so he is feeling better again. She reminds him that even students preparing for exams should not push themselves to the point of collapsing. She wonders if he exhausted himself from studying too much. She tells him to maintain proper sleep and meals. Toma asks if she is worried about him, and when she confirms, he expresses that he appreciates it. Renee realizes she might have sounded like she was taking care of a child. She blurts out that she is concerned because she is his girlfriend, and admits that she has never been in love before, so she does not fully understand the feeling of a heart reacting intensely. She then asks if he feels well enough to meet briefly after school. After classes end, she runs to find him. When she reaches him, she grabs his hand firmly, telling him that she had been truly anxious about him. Deep inside, she feels a strong warmth spreading within her heart as she holds on to him. Renee lies on her bed, lost in thought. The moments she spends with Toma leave her uneasy, yet strangely comforted at the same time. There is a quiet warmth in those moments that lingers far longer than she expects. A fleeting idea crosses her mind. If they were somewhere secluded, far from the eyes of others, she might reach for his hand without any hesitation. The thought fades as she realizes it was just a dream. From outside, her mother calls her name, urging her to get up. Renee answers lazily, still lost in thought, promising she'll be out soon. The weight of sleep lingers, making it difficult to shake off the traces of her dreams at the start of the week. When she finally gets up and steps into the hallway, her mother approaches her with a serious-sounding request. Renee instantly senses trouble and refuses in her mind before hearing any details, knowing she won't be able to handle whatever her mother hints at. She knows her mother well, kind-hearted but often careless with household matters. Years of small disasters make Renee uneasy whenever her mother speaks too casually. A familiar anxiety settles in her chest as she wonders what might have gone wrong this time, imagining yet another broken appliance. Meanwhile, her mother stays calm and cheerful, giving only vague hints that she wants to talk. Renee's uneasiness grows as she listens, bracing herself for the consequences of whatever is about to be revealed. Suddenly, without any warning, a small boy rushes out from another room and throws his arms around Renee, clinging to her. The unexpected contact startles her. Before she can react, Kotatsu proudly announces that he has put an insect on her back. A moment later, he bursts into laughter, admitting it was only a prank meant to scare her, clearly pleased with her reaction. Their mother watches the scene with quiet satisfaction. It has been a long time since the two have spent time together, yet they appear comfortable and familiar with one another. Seeing this, she feels reassured and decides there is nothing to worry about. The boy is the child of a close acquaintance of Renee's mother. Long ago, concerned about how overwhelmed this friend was with work, her mother had volunteered to look after him. Back then, she would often claim to have obligations of her own and ask Renee to watch over him instead. Over time, this arrangement gradually led to more children becoming part of Renee's daily life. In many ways, it became the main reason she developed a habit of caring for others far beyond what was expected of her age. Today, however, Renee silently apologizes to herself as she realizes she cannot stay. She has plans and is unable to spend time as she usually does. Her mother tries to stop her, clearly wanting to say something important, but Renee leaves before listening, deciding that it can wait for another day. As she walks away, she reminds herself that she cannot slip into a caretaker's role right now. She needs to change her mindset completely. There is something she has been looking forward to, and she wants space that belongs only to her. Her thoughts shift toward the day ahead. She considers where she is going and feels a strong need to step away from responsibility, even if only for a short while. Earlier, Toma asked to hang out before the exams. She agrees, believing that she'll also get to relax. Her destination is already decided. She is going to an amusement park, and she will be spending the day with her fellow student, Toma. When Renee approaches him, she apologizes for arriving later than planned. As they face each other, their eye lines align more closely than usual, making the difference immediately noticeable. She realizes this is because she has chosen footwear without added height, something she rarely does. The change makes her briefly uncertain about her appearance, and she wonders whether her outfit looks too plain. She chose it deliberately for ease of movement rather than appearance. Toma observes her quietly, taking in the unfamiliar look. The simplicity suits her in a way that feels new, and his reaction makes her self-conscious. Although she has heard similar remarks before, the way he looks at her causes the meaning to settle more deeply than usual. When he extends his hand without hesitation, she notices the quiet depth of the gesture. For a brief moment, her gaze lingers on his hand. The movement feels effortless on his part, as though it is the most natural thing to do. After a short pause, she places her hand in his, and they begin walking together. As they move forward side by side, she notes that holding hands like this makes it less likely they will run into anyone familiar. Accepting that, she allows herself to relax into the moment. As they continue, Toma suggests visiting a more intense attraction, having already looked into the options beforehand. He remains attentive, checking her condition, asking whether she feels tired, and reminding her to speak up if she feels unwell. Eventually, they take a seat together on a nearby bench to rest. Toma returns with a cup of coffee and hands it to her, having bought it without being asked. As she holds the warmth between her palms, Renee's thoughts wander. She notices how composed he seems compared to others his age. In her eyes, he carries himself with an awareness that does not match that of an ordinary student. At the same time, conflicting impressions surface. There are moments when he appears childishly blunt or impulsive, reminding her of boys in her class who act without self-control. The contrast leaves her uncertain and makes her question her own judgment. She considers that Kotatsu is around the same age as Toma, yet their behavior differs greatly, further reinforcing her mixed feelings. Renee reflects on how rare it is to find someone in her class who pays close attention to others. Toma, however, does not view himself in that way. From his perspective, he is simply putting in honest effort, doing nothing beyond what he believes is expected of him. Renee finds it more impressive. He adds an apology in advance, admitting that he might get overly enthusiastic as they continue. Soon after, they arrive in front of a large roller coaster. Toma points it out with excitement, clearly interested after seeing it advertised and convinced that it offers the sensation of floating through the air. He checks his height against the posted requirement and confirms that he meets the minimum limit. Relief shows plainly in his reaction. Renee watches him and thinks about how different he seems when he behaves with such innocence. The sight makes her laugh quietly, finding that side of him unfamiliar yet cute. He asks whether she has ridden it before. She admits that she has, though it was back when the attraction had just opened. She recalls how long the wait had been then, stretching on for hours. Toma takes this in and begins calculating how many years have passed, realizing she is pretending to be a grade schooler and how young she must have been at the time. Renee notices her slip, acknowledging that she wouldn't have been tall enough to ride it back then. She hesitates briefly before explaining that her growth had come earlier than expected. She brushes it off casually, adding that this makes the experience feel new again after so long. With that, they prepare to board the ride together. As they take their seats, Renee feels relief. Toma has never been the type to probe deeply into things, and she finds comfort in that. His lack of suspicion, even when details do not perfectly align, makes everything easier for her. She notices that his simplicity works in her favor. Before the ride begins, Toma mentions that she can hold onto his hand if she feels scared, though he quickly downplays it, half expecting that he might be the one to panic instead. Renee internally rejects the idea that he alone would cause a scene, knowing that she herself might end up reacting too loudly once the ride starts. She grows tired of keeping up lies. Thinking about the hours they spend together and the quiet trust between them, a nagging fear settles in. She senses that if things continue like this, everything could suddenly fall apart. Their balance feels delicate, as if one small mistake could ruin it. She doesn't want to lose what they have. The thought is unbearable, so she pushes it away immediately. After enjoying the rides, Toma asks Renee if she has seen the winter parade on Halloween night. When she says she hasn't, he invites her to watch it together, and she agrees. Together, they look ahead to a time after exams, the promise quietly settling between them. Even with the calm agreement, Renee knows her lie still matters. She wonders if a small lie can stay hidden forever. Later, tired from the day, she lies down. Her body feels heavy, and her mind is full of thoughts. The happiness from the day is still there, but it makes the growing discomfort inside her harder to ignore. She reflects that it already feels too late to dwell on guilt or anxiety. For now, what matters most are the things she believes must be protected. His sense of ease and his performance in his studies cannot be disturbed. Hence, she convinces herself that the age difference between them must remain undisclosed. Allowing him to know would only create problems she is not prepared to face. On her way back from school, her thoughts briefly turn to a message from Toma. He explains that he's busy with his extracurricular activities and suggests meeting another time. She notices his dedication and how well he balances everything, even with exams coming up. His effort leaves a quiet impression on her. As her mind continues to wander, she suddenly thinks of Kotatsu and begins wondering where he attends school. Since he lives nearby, the possibility occurs to her that their schools might overlap. She imagines different scenarios, considering whether such a coincidence could cause complications. Almost immediately, she dismisses the idea. Even if they attended the same place, there would be no reason for her name to come up. and there is no certainty. Realizing how far her thoughts have gone, Renee stops herself. She recognizes the pattern and decides that she has gone too far in her thoughts, choosing instead to let those worries fade. Someone suddenly places a hand on her bag from behind. The unexpected touch makes her tense, and she turns around quickly in alarm. Her reaction is immediate, driven purely by surprise. She then realizes it is Kotatsu, having approached her unexpectedly. After the confusion fades, Renee notices that he seems to be heading somewhere else instead of following the usual route. Kotatsu explains that he plans to meet someone from his extracurricular group. The explanation catches her interest, and she finds the idea oddly amusing. Kotatsu then casually mentions that he has been experimenting with making slime, which reminds Renee of something Toma once mentioned. The connection makes her pause, and she begins to wonder. Kotatsu clarifies that he is part of the chemistry club. Before Renee can think further, Kotatsu suddenly spots someone ahead. A boy stands at a distance, gesturing energetically to get their attention. He calls out impatiently, clearly waiting. As Kotatsu approaches, the boy comments on how late he is. Renee steps slow as she recognizes the figure. It is Toma. The realization hits her all at once. Her gaze fixes on him, and he immediately notices that her school uniform different from what he expected. The scene shifts to Chihaya's memories from long ago, involving someone he respects deeply. It feels like a brief detour into the past, focusing on him and Renee during their early years. He never fully understands why things began the way they did, whether it was because he was a transfer student, his name sounded unusual, he reacted slowly, or he was the shortest in the class. Even now, the exact reason remains unclear. What she knows for certain is that he was bullied. During those days, a group of children harasses him. When Renee notices this, she rushes toward them without hesitation and steps in to stop it. Her sudden appearance frightens the bullies, and they quickly scatter. After they are gone, she checks to see whether the boy is hurt. They both introduce themselves. At that moment, his first impression of her is that she seems scary. He decides to keep his distance and avoid trouble, as he struggles to deal with someone as forceful as her. But as they live in the same flat, Chihaya notes her kind nature and caring nature. Even so, he senses a quiet respect, and an unspoken connection begins to form between them. One day while walking, he suggests calling her boss, as she seems like one, but she firmly denies it. Incidents continue in which she acts boldly, including moments when she notices small details, such as a loose button on his clothing. These moments only add to the awkwardness between them. When he enters middle school, his body changes quickly. He grows taller than her, and his presence becomes more noticeable. To her, he remains a difficult childhood friend, yet she's the boss he respects. One day, an awkward moment arises when another girl confesses her feelings to Chihaya. Renee watches quietly. Seeing her, Chihaya wonders if he will be teased for the rest of his life, but Renee simply asks if he answered thoughtfully. He says yes. Though she feels sorry for the girl, Renee understands her friend. Chihaya wonders aloud why she hasn't mocked him. She admits she has no experience with romance, but wouldn't interfere when someone acts sincerely. She knows she would never make fun of genuine intentions. Chihaya is quietly moved, appreciating both her honesty and the wisdom in her perspective. In the end, he tells Renee that if she ever falls in love, she should come to him for advice, promising to give it sincerely. Renee doubts such a day will come, but feels grateful for his support. Chihaya reflects on the quiet promise made long ago, lingering in her memory. As time moves on, he spots Renee with a guy and wonders if the moment has finally arrived to fulfill it. The thought remains unresolved. With that uncertainty, the focus shifts, returning the narrative to the main story, leaving the continuation for another time. When Toma speaks to her, Renee notices his gaze on her clothes and realizes he has seen through her lie. She has been pretending to be younger, and now the truth is out. Renee feels the weight of it, while Toma, seeing her in the uniform for the first time, is struck by how well it suits her. Recognizing it as the Shizuga Oka uniform, he reflects quietly on the school and the new perspective it gives him. When Kotatsu wonders if Toma knows her, he replies that he already knows her, recalling how she showed him around. Renee, uneasy, tries to steer the conversation back to the truth she can no longer hide. At last, Renee reveals that she is actually a high school student. She expects shock or disbelief, but instead, she is caught off guard by Toma's reaction. He is not surprised at all. To him, this has been obvious for a long time. He has known since they first met during the school festival. The realization leaves Renee stunned as she struggles to process that her secret had never truly been a secret to him. As she thinks back on everything, it becomes clear to her that Toma had sensed it from the very beginning. The way she spoke and carried herself had already given him that impression. For a brief time, her appearance and the school bag suggested otherwise, but that assumption never truly lasted. She understands that he recognized her real age early on, especially after watching her interact with her childhood friend was enough for him to see the truth. Rene thinks that even so, he confessed his feelings knowingly, without hesitation or confusion. Rene struggles internally, trying to piece together what this means. She wonders how he could have known so much while she continued to act out her role so poorly. She keeps turning the situation over in her mind, unable to understand why things unfolded this way or how her act failed so completely. Before she can sort through these thoughts any further, the moment is interrupted. Kotatsu calls out to Toma, urging him to hurry so they can leave before it gets too late to carry out their experiment. Toma prepares to go, casually putting the moment aside, and leaves Rene behind with her racing thoughts. As she watches him leave, the realization sinks in even deeper. What she had believed to be a carefully maintained disguise now feels foolish. Later, Rene reaches out to Chihaya and brings up everything that has been weighing on her. As their exchange continues, she cannot help but think about how long this situation has dragged on. Chihaya reacts in a way that makes it clear he is amused, never missing a chance to tease her. His reaction only reminds Rene of how hard she had tried to behave like a much younger student, despite how unconvincing it must have been. The realization settles in fully that Toma had known the truth all along. That fact alone changes how she looks at everything that has happened so far. She begins to wonder if this means the main issue is finally coming to an end. At the same time, she recognizes that there are still unresolved parts, especially the role she has been playing and the way she has been presenting herself to him. Even so, she understands that at least she is no longer keeping secrets about who she really is, even if the situation itself still feels unclear to her. Elsewhere, Kotatsu approaches Toma just as the school bell signals the end of the day. Kotatsu notices that Toma is still occupied with a plant-related experiment and comments on it. Toma makes it clear that he is only doing it casually and that he plans to tidy everything up soon, assuring Kotatsu that there is nothing to worry about. Kotatsu then shifts the topic, bringing up how Toma first met Rene during his visit to that school, and how they continued to see each other afterward. Toma acknowledges that this is true. Kotatsu presses further, questioning the nature of Toma's relationship with her. Faced with this direct question, he hesitates and asks for a moment to think. As the conversation pauses, Toma reflects on what he has been asked and how he should respond. The question lingers in his mind, leaving him uncertain about the right way to define what Rene now means to him. Rene nearly drops her phone when she receives a text, then slumps over the table in relief when it doesn't break. As she checks her messages, she notices that Toma had been considerate, confirming things with her before. This reassures her and makes her reflect on how thoughtful he is. Chihaya wonders if she's fine. Across the table, Chihaya wonders aloud if the issue has to do with the kid again. Seeing his thoughtful expression, Rene begins to explain that Toma is friends with a child she has known since they were little, and they are in the same class. The thought of others talking about her younger self makes her anxious. She worries that Kotatsu, who knows many details, might accidentally share more than intended. She is worried about embarrassing stuff from her middle school days being brought up. Chihaya listens to Rene briefly and responds casually, downplaying the situation. He acknowledges her words but does not press further, keeping the conversation light. Meanwhile, Toma reflects on the details she shared about Shizuruga Oka. Meanwhile, Kotatsu walks alongside Toma and begins questioning him about his relationship with Rene. He asks if Toma really isn't going out. Toma confirms that he is. Kotatsu probes further, trying to understand what going out means in this context. Toma explains that it involves spending time together, sharing meals, and keeping each other company in various ways. Kotatsu, surprised, asks for clarification. Toma elaborates, listing the different activities they have done together, including casual outings, enjoying food, and even more personal shared experiences. Kotatsu realizes that by these standards, he and Rene are effectively in a romantic relationship. He accepts this and decides to refer to Rene as Toma's girlfriend from now on. Toma explains to Kotatsu that it is important for them to confirm each other's intentions and follow certain steps afterward, implying a kind of initiation that is expected in relationships. Kotatsu listens, confused by the terms Toma uses, finding them unfamiliar and complicated. He concludes that it is something meant for when they are older, possibly after entering middle school. Shortly after, Rene receives a message from Toma asking to meet and talk about fellow Shikizaki. The tone of the message feels tense and uncertain, giving her a sense that something may have been misunderstood. She quickly replies that she will come immediately and rushes to meet him. Up until that moment, she had never paid much attention to what others thought of her or what they said, yet now she finds herself running instinctively, driven by a need to resolve the situation. When she arrives, Toma acknowledges her presence calmly, and Renee apologizes for any confusion, explaining that the way Kotatsu communicates can sometimes be easily misinterpreted. Toma mentions that he had sensed some of it might relate to her younger years, noting the use of the word girlfriend, which surprised him slightly. Renee observes his careful choice of words and understands that he is being very deliberate. She senses his stress and hesitates for a moment before stepping forward and hugging him firmly. She reassures him that the matter is not about whether they are officially going out or about labels, but simply about acknowledging their feelings. In that embrace, she conveys that nothing else matters except the truth of their emotions. Renee hugs him instinctively, realizing she has often comforted children this way since she was young. Her reaction feels like a habit carried over from those times, though she quickly regains full awareness. As she holds him, she notices how different he feels, his presence and scent nothing like the children she once knew. She apologizes quietly for losing her composure, feeling a little embarrassed. Toma, sensing her unease, remarks on how she tends to lose control only in front of him. Renee protests lightly, insisting that it is not a matter to tease someone older about, but Toma reassures her that he is serious and not joking. Renee finds herself confused by the exchange, realizing that being around him somehow makes her feel less sharp, as if her thoughts are muddled. She questions her own behavior, recognizing that she is setting a strange example despite being the older one. The conversation turns to the past, with Toma asking if she had felt uncomfortable when they first met and she wore her school uniform. She admits that she did, and he gently probes whether she still cares about the age difference between them. Renee insists that she does not, though she notes that she wishes she could move past her younger school days, graduate, and finally wear a proper uniform and shoes. She quietly imagines walking beside him in that way, wondering if the feeling of that moment is more of a dream than reality. Renee thinks about the future, focusing on what lies ahead. She wonders if her dreams are close to becoming reality, imagining the moment when her wishes might finally come true. The thought fills her with anticipation, and she recognizes that Toma shares a similar desire to see it realized. He reminds her that achieving it requires effort, particularly in passing the upcoming exam, and she reflects that it is something she can manage without difficulty. She notices that she is able to speak with him more naturally than before, realizing that her feelings of guilt no longer weigh on her. The conversation turns to uniforms, and she considers her current participation in the sneaker competition. Toma suggests that she might start wearing loafers in spring, which makes her feel she can finally be honest about her preferences and intentions. He apologizes for calling her out unexpectedly, and she responds with relief and happiness at being able to meet him. As she begins to leave, Toma grabs her hand firmly and pulls her into a hug, expressing encouragement. She feels a sense of renewed energy, as if she has been recharged for the challenges ahead. He reminds her to be careful as it has grown dark, and she puts on her mask to head home. Walking away, Renee reflects on the hug. His presence overwhelms her senses, making her feel as if her focus and clarity are slipping. She recognizes that he has gained a kind of influence over her thoughts and emotions, and she marvels at the subtle control he seems to exert, leaving her almost dazed. Renee is unaware that a huge typhoon has unexpectedly reached her home, a surprise that she had not anticipated. Later, Renee lies on her bed, recalling her last meeting with fellow Toma. His presence lingers vividly in her mind. His voice, his scent, the feel of his skin. Every detail seeps into her thoughts, sinking deep. She realizes she never took the hand he offered, never found the courage to break through the walls she built around herself. Naming this feeling as love feels impossible after so long ignoring her own emotions. The realization leaves her both confused and unsettled. Her thoughts are interrupted as Kotatsu climbs over and calls out, reminding her that breakfast is still not ready. Surprised and frustrated by his sudden presence in her room, she confronts him, scolding him for entering uninvited and rummaging through her space. As she walks into the living room, the mess there strikes her, and exasperation wells up inside. The disarray has been chaotic since morning. She knows Kotatsu will deny responsibility, yet she also knows he is the only one present. Later, she reflects on the day she met Toma in the park, feeling light and unsettled. Back home, her mother reveals that Kotatsu's parents are going abroad for some time to purchase items for their shop. Renee asks about the duration of their absence, and is told it will be approximately half a year. The long period surprises her. Her mother reveals that Renee had gone out before she could mention it. Renee inquires about Kotatsu's extended family, wondering about his aunt or uncle, but her mother reminds her that his house is far away, making visits infrequent and that some things are inevitable. Renee's parents are rarely at home. Her father is often sent away for work, and her mother, a stylist for a showman, leaves early in the morning and returns late at night. When her mother is on location, she can be away for extended periods. As a result, Rinne is essentially living alone with Kotatsu. The situation is far from ideal. It feels like walking through a minefield. During breakfast, Kotatsu comments on the food, and the conversation turns to a time when Rinne might have mentioned Ichinose in her sleep. She doesn't remember saying anything, but the thought makes her uneasy, worrying about how fellow Toma would react if he discovered her current living arrangement with Kotatsu. She resolves to avoid causing him any discomfort or misunderstanding, especially since he is focused on his exams. Determined to keep Toma from learning the truth, Rinne asks Kotatsu to keep their living arrangement a secret, saying it's to prevent misunderstandings. Kotatsu questions her, but she insists and makes him promise to stay silent. In return, she offers to do anything he asks. They shake hands to seal the agreement, and Rinne feels both relieved and uneasy. At school, frustration and worry weigh on Rinne. Chihaya approaches and comments on how eventful her life seems, filled with drama. She responds that she simply wants a peaceful life. Chihaya then asks about Kotatsu's wish, but Rinne admits she does not know. He is still considering what he wants. She worries about what she will do if he asks for something costly. Chihaya speculates that a child of his age might request a video game, a skateboard, or a snack like takoyaki, but Rinne knows that's what he wants. Ignoring her comment, he suggests that Rinne to research the interests of children his age to understand better what they might want. Later, when they meet in the park, Rinne asks Toma about a wish he might have if she could grant one for him. He considers it thoughtfully, reflecting on what he would desire, and internally frames it as a form of research to understand him better. A growing curiosity builds within her, and she feels a desire to get closer to him, even if only slightly. Toma hesitates, unsure whether he should speak, but Rinne encourages him to express what he wants. Gathering his courage, he says he wants to visit her place. Rinne is startled and almost agrees without thinking, but quickly realizes it would be impossible with Kotatsu around. Nevertheless, she agrees that he could come over another time. They begin walking together. Toma mentions that it may soon become difficult to meet outside as the season progresses. Rinne tells him she is feeling properly cold, the winter wind stinging her cheeks. Toma warns her she might catch a cold and suggests finding somewhere nearby, perhaps in front of the station. She agrees, and he proposes going to a place where they can take things slowly together. He leads her to a building, and she internally questions the suggestive way he presents it. Upon entering the building, Rinne realizes it is just a karaoke place. She removes her coat and feels relief at the warmth inside. Toma also takes off his coat, and they move further into the room. The space is a closed-off room, familiar from her previous visits to karaoke. They stand there for a moment, considering singing, but both decide to wait a little while before starting. Rinne reflects on the situation as they remain alone together. The lack of distance and the enclosed private room make her increasingly uneasy, and nervousness builds. At that moment, Toma suddenly notices her, which startles her. Observing that her ears have turned red, he checks on her condition. She explains that the sudden change from cold outside to warmth inside has affected her. Toma reaches out and touches her ear, noting how cold it feels, almost like ice. Concerned, he insists that it needs warming to prevent any harm. Hearing this, Rinne becomes confused and flustered, questioning what he means by warming it up, immediately rejecting the idea. But he moves very close and blows air near her ear to warm it. She quickly bolts across the room, plopping down on the floor, unable to handle the ticklish sensation. Toma realizes his mistake and feels apologetic. After some time, they sit on the sofa again. Toma notices the earrings Rinne usually wears and comments that they look nice on her. She reacts with slight surprise. He explains that this is the first time he has truly noticed them properly and mentions thinking about getting his ears pierced in middle school, suggesting the idea of having the same kind. Rinne hesitates, conflicted, expressing uncertainty rather than outright rejection. She explains that her ears are thicker than normal, which might make earrings difficult. Reflecting silently, Rinne realizes she likes how he looks, just the way he is. She wonders if this is something she even needs to worry about. At that moment, Toma takes her hand and asks her to feel his ear, questioning whether it would work. Caught off guard by his closeness, she briefly misunderstands the situation, quickly reaching for his ear before letting go in a snap. Toma's eyes widen in shock at her reaction. Immediate regret fills her. She realizes how soft and gentle he is, almost impossibly so, and the thought of hurting something so delicate overwhelms her. She firmly tells him not to do it, explaining that it would hurt, might bleed, and that she doesn't want him injured. Her concern turns protective, and only afterward does she realize she may have gone too far. Irritated with herself, she apologizes for being overly bothersome. Toma reassures her, thanking her for explaining everything. He accepts her concern and expresses appreciation for that side of her. Hearing this, Renee realizes that he understands his feelings clearly and can express them honestly. She finds this realization striking. He takes her hand again, reflecting that each meeting teaches him more about her and brings them closer. Renee recognizes how difficult this openness is for her. In the end, they do not sing a single song. Surrounded by background music, they remain close, quietly leaning toward one another. Their voices stay low, and proximity warms the lingering cold from outside. When his breath brushes against her ear, her heartbeat accelerates and breathing becomes difficult. She recognizes that she has never experienced this with anyone else before. Gradually, her uncertain feelings settle into something firm and unmistakable. Back at Renee's home, Kotatsu talks at length about his day at school. He jumps from one event to another, explaining how things unfolded and repeatedly mentioning Ichino's. Renee reacts sharply to the name, immediately questioning what is wrong. Kotatsu explains that he's praising Ichino's, saying he completed an experiment on his own and did well. He keeps talking casually, while Renee listens tensely, occasionally asking if it's really true. Eventually, Kotatsu abruptly asks whether she has feelings for Ichino's. The question catches her off guard. He notices her reaction and points out that she does not deny it, remarking that her expression gives her away and that she has never been good at hiding things. Renee panics internally. She realizes this is the one person who must not discover the truth. She knows she must respond to stop suspicion, even though it feels difficult. Renee firmly states that she does not have any romantic interest in Ichino's. Even as she speaks, Renee feels conflicted. She knows she must deny it clearly, yet the words don't come easily. Kotatsu looks confused. Overwhelmed, she admits she doesn't understand what it means to like someone romantically. She explains that feelings associated with love are unfamiliar to her, something she has never truly understood or thought about deeply. Emotions people often describe, like finding happiness during hardship, have never made much sense to her. As the conversation continues, Renee becomes emotionally shaken and begins to cry. She admits she feels like a mess and can't handle these feelings, especially when she can't put them into words. Kotatsu reacts with concern, apologizing for upsetting her and saying he didn't mean to make her cry. After listening carefully, he seems to understand. Kotatsu then shifts the conversation to love itself, suggesting he could help her understand it better. He reminds her of a favor she once promised and suggests becoming his girlfriend. The meaning behind his words leaves Renee stunned, especially because the way he talks about love feels unfamiliar, something she has never fully grasped before. Kotatsu suddenly asks Renee to become his girlfriend, saying it casually but with clear intent. Renee laughs in disbelief, unable to take it seriously at first, thinking it must be a joke. Kotatsu, however, insists that he means it and reminds her of a promise she once made, to do whatever he asked of her. She immediately panics, trying to slow things down, and urges him to calm himself. She explains that there are certain things she can agree to and certain things she cannot, and that being asked something like this so abruptly overwhelms her. Kotatsu denies that it is sudden at all. He explains that he has cared for her since early childhood, first saying it started when he was 4, then reconsidering and saying it may have been even earlier. He recalls wanting to marry her when they were very young and mentions how he tried to win her affection back then, offering small treasures and clinging to her attention. He complains that she never noticed his intentions and calls her oblivious. At that moment, Renee begins to understand that those times she once dismissed as annoyance were meaningful to him, though she had never seen them that way. Kotatsu continues, expressing how happy he is living together with her now and how enjoyable it feels to be by her side. He confesses that his feelings have only grown stronger and urges her to accept him. Hearing this, Renee finally understands that he is not joking or teasing at all. She recognizes that his feelings are genuine and serious. She admits that she has said before that she does not really understand romance. Kotatsu immediately declares that he will be the one to teach her and boldly decides that she should fall in love with him. Renee feels overwhelmed by his intensity. She admits that thinking too deeply about romantic matters causes her emotional distress and makes her cry. Kotatsu is surprised and reacts lightly, calling her sensitive, but then stops himself, realizing that he does not want to cause her pain. Renee apologizes sincerely. She explains that she cannot see him romantically and only views him with a caring, protective affection, shaped by having looked after him since he was young. Even so, she struggles with what answer she should give, knowing that she does not want to hurt him in the end. Kotatsu accepts her hesitation without anger. He tells her that he will wait until she is ready and points out that he has already loved her for many years, so waiting longer does not trouble him. The thought of continuing to pursue her energizes him, and he confidently believes that he will eventually make her fall for him. With that, he casually decides to leave and go bathe, acting as if the situation has already been settled. Left alone, Renee reflects on what just happened. Only then does she realize that she has just begun to notice her own feelings toward someone else, and the timing of that realization leaves her deeply conflicted. Later, she goes to Chihaya's house and formally asks for an urgent meeting. She brings a small offering with her and apologizes for arriving in casual clothes instead of proper attire. Chihaya responds politely, greeting her calmly and wishing her a pleasant Saturday morning. The two of them go inside and sit down together. He senses something unusual and invites her to speak, making it clear that she can talk freely. Renee hesitates at first and claims that she is fine, but her tone is subdued. She then says she will explain everything from the beginning and asks him not to be startled. After gathering herself, she admits the truth. She has realized that she has feelings for Toma. Chihaya reacts quietly, already seeming to understand. Internally, he is not surprised at all. He offers his good wishes, assuming her feelings are obvious. Renee quickly clarifies that what she means is romantic affection. She explains that she does not have concrete proof, but she became aware of it that very day. Chihaya acknowledges this realization calmly. Renee continues, explaining that Toma often makes her heart beat faster and that seeing him brings her happiness. More than that, she sincerely wishes for him to live a calm, healthy life. She finds it remarkable that her feelings extend so deeply. She reflects that if she could somehow become part of what brings him happiness, then she wants to support that happiness herself. Chihaya reacts strongly, half-jokingly treating her words as if they were a formal declaration, and offers congratulations. Renee accepts them politely. He then admits that he had suspected this outcome from the very beginning. Renee is shocked to hear that, but as she thinks about it, she realizes that she may have been unconsciously dressing more seriously whenever she went to see Toma. She acknowledges that such things tend to reveal themselves without intent. Chihaya agrees that it has been obvious. He then moves to end the meeting casually, suggesting they do something lighthearted afterward. Renee quickly stops him, insisting that this is where the real issue begins. She explains that acting on these feelings means confronting the age difference they discussed before. Chihaya recalls that concern and suggests the idea of keeping the situation quiet for a while. Renee reacts strongly, wondering if she truly has no alternative. Chihaya reassures her that such a situation is not unusual, and points out that in a few months Toma will be in middle school, while she will be in her second year of high school. He questions whether the real problem lies in Toma still being in elementary school. Renee is left questioning that point herself. She explains that there are still 4 months before the situation changes, and admits she wishes everything already felt ordinary. She realizes she had forgotten this detail because her thoughts have been completely occupied by Toma. After a pause, she adds that there is something else she has not mentioned. Kotatsu is involved as well. Chihaya understands immediately and listens without interrupting. After considering it, he concludes that it is not a serious problem. Renee is surprised by his response. Chihaya explains that Kotatsu's feelings are likely temporary and will fade on their own. He compares it to a child growing attached to a caregiver, noting that boys often develop affection for the first older girl who looks after them, aside from their mother. He emphasizes that this kind of attachment is very different from what Toma feels for her. Hearing this reassures Renee deeply. Gratitude washes over her, as if a heavy burden has been lifted. His explanation calms her thoughts and brings her peace. Chihaya responds modestly, saying he is glad he could help. With the matter settled, he lightens the mood and suggests they relax and play a game together. She agrees without hesitation. She finally regains control over her emotions. Her thoughts return to Toma, the person she has grown attached to, and to the sense that his feelings mirror her own. In her mind, a quiet agreement forms. This connection will remain hidden for a limited time. Guilt toward Kotatsu briefly surfaces, but she convinces herself that her feelings for Toma will not fade easily. At the same time, she assumes Kotatsu's affection may eventually disappear on its own. These thoughts continue to circle in her mind. When she opens her eyes, she realizes Kotatsu is close, his arms around her as he sleeps. She reacts immediately, pulling away and speaking to him sharply. He remains unfazed, acting as if nothing is unusual. Later, while she is occupied elsewhere, he approaches again with another overly familiar suggestion. She shuts it down without hesitation. He continues to push boundaries, showing little restraint, and her discomfort grows. Feeling overwhelmed, she reflects inwardly. Instead of letting go, Kotatsu seems to be clinging to his feelings more tightly, and the realization unsettles her. Each day, the situation feels harder to manage. He challenges her refusals by referring to their shared childhood, recalling how their closeness once felt natural and unquestioned. She responds that time has changed, recognizing that what once seemed acceptable no longer fits who they are now. Kotatsu, however, focuses on the fact that they grew up together, believing that time has not truly changed the distance between them. To him, it feels illogical that something once allowed has become unacceptable simply because years have passed. His reasoning disturbs her. It echoes doubts she has carried quietly for a long time, questions she has never been able to answer. Faced with them again, she realizes she still cannot explain her feelings clearly, and the uncertainty leaves her unsettled. The scene shifts to Toma as he sits quietly, focused on several items laid out before him. Kotatsu notices that many are soft shades of pink, decorated with delicate patterns, flowers, and symbols of affection. He concentrates on preparing and packaging them carefully. Before he finishes, Kotatsu presents an unusually large ball. Toma is briefly taken aback by its size, while Kotatsu looks satisfied, convinced that something substantial is necessary to properly express his feelings. Elsewhere, Renee spends time alone in the park, lost in thought. She reflects on how Toma has been attending extra classes more often as exams approach, leaving them with less time together. She wonders if that distance is affecting her mood. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out behind her. When she turns and sees Toma, her surprise is mixed with relief. She privately thinks her emotions have become overwhelming. She worries about the days they have not met and wonders if he has been taking proper care of himself. She reminds herself not to dwell on their age difference, questioning whether it is truly wrong to set that concern aside, even briefly. She wonders if it is acceptable to immerse herself fully in the warmth she feels when they are together. Toma offers her a small bag he prepared. Inside is something he made himself through the chemistry club, meant for use during a bath. As she accepts it, she is stunned by the realization that it is handmade, something she has never received before. The weight of the gesture overwhelms her, and tears well in her eyes. Toma becomes uneasy, misreading her reaction, but she reassures herself that her tears come from happiness. She resolves to treasure the gift. He suggests she use it, and she agrees, deciding to share it rather than use it all at once. Afterward, they walk together, their hands joined. As they move side by side, she quietly wonders whether it is truly acceptable for her to feel this content just being herself. When Rine arrives home, her thoughts linger on the day. Kotatsu approaches and offers her something he prepared. She takes it hesitantly and realizes it is also a bath bomb, made through his chemistry club. He urges her to use it right away. She nods and decides to try it later. She sets both gifts in front of her and considers what to do. She apologizes to Kotatsu silently in her thoughts. Choosing Toma's gift, she places it into the bath. Flower petals unfurl as aromatic oils spread, turning the water a soft pink. The faint scent reminds her of Toma, bringing a quiet sense of comfort. As she bathes, a voice calls from outside, asking whether she has used the bath bomb and how it is. Startled, she answers quickly. When she places the rest into the water, the colors shift, from pink to green, then to mulberry. A small piece of paper emerges, revealing a message from Toma expressing his feelings. She notices Kotatsu watching her reaction and senses he will ask what she thinks. Looking at the swirling colors and the message, she realizes the situation has unintentionally hurt Kotatsu. She understands that, unlike Toma, she must be clear and sincere in her actions. After finishing her bath, she approaches Kotatsu and announces that they need to talk, aware of how delicate the balance between their emotions has become. As soon as she steps inside, she steadies herself, knowing she has something important to say. Kotatsu looks at her with a confused expression and she hesitates. In her mind, she admits that this will hurt him, but she also knows she cannot avoid it any longer. No matter how painful it is, she has to be honest. She begins explaining that it is about what happened earlier, about the feelings he confessed to her. She makes it clear that she cannot be with him, not now and not in the future, no matter how long he waits. Apologizing sincerely, she feels a heavy weight settle in her chest after saying it out loud. She realizes she has just rejected someone who truly loves her, and the act itself leaves her exhausted. Her chest aches, but she convinces herself that giving him false hope would have been far more cruel. Hearing her words, Kotatsu breaks down and starts crying. Through his tears, he recalls something she once said in the past. Renee reacts in confusion, trying to understand his meaning. He reminds her of a moment when she spoke about his family name and how nice it would be if she shared it one day through marriage. She becomes flustered, questioning when she ever said such a thing, before realizing it must have been something from their childhood. Seeing how deeply hurt he is, Renee gently places a hand on his head to comfort him. She apologizes again for causing him pain and expresses gratitude for his feelings. Still, she explains that there are personal circumstances she cannot ignore. She reminds him of her age and repeats her apology, addressing him by name. Kotatsu wipes away his tears, yet his expression remains firm. He admits that he cannot simply stop caring about her. After loving her for so long, hating her is impossible. Rene responds with a small, gentle smile, reassuring him that he does not need to force himself to feel hatred. Surprised, Kotatsu lets out a faint laugh and asks if that means he can continue loving her. Rene is left stunned, quietly processing his words as the moment lingers between them. Rene feels a deep conflict in her heart. She recognizes that she cannot even manage her own emotions fully, so she has no authority over how others feel. She knows she cannot tell him what to do or control his feelings in any way. Despite this, she quietly acknowledges his words. Kotatsu responds with determination, insisting that he will wait. She hesitates, reminding him that waiting alone will not change the circumstances. When he asks if she truly believes he should not, she recalls her previous words and affirms that she had clearly said he should not. Even so, he insists that he can continue loving her, pointing out that it was she who gave him that understanding. Rene notices the persistence in him and reflects on how insistently he presses forward, despite the complexity of their situation. She realizes that his determination mirrors the boldness and energy of younger students, relentless and unyielding. After some time, Rene and Chihaya sit outside the store, each lost in their own thoughts. Rene stretches slightly, reflecting on the strange and sudden nature of their encounter. Chihaya observes her, offering casual comments that make her feel both embarrassed and flustered. Rene apologizes for spacing out, and Chihaya responds warmly, as if it's nothing. His calm reaction leaves her both surprised and uneasy. As they continue talking, Rene admits she's worried about a bigger issue, how to deal with Kotatsu, and says she's open to advice. Chihaya suggests telling him the truth, but Rene knows Kotatsu would insist on meeting her boyfriend. For a moment, she considers presenting Chihaya as her boyfriend. Her thoughts begin to spiral, and she struggles to keep them straight. Chihaya asks what would happen if Toma found out about him pretending to be her boyfriend. He speaks firmly, pointing out that her confusion is clouding her judgment. Rene knows he's right and feels frustrated with herself. Chihaya then encourages her to step back and clear her head for a while. He suggests creating some distance, reminding her of the pressure she's under from school and other responsibilities. Though it feels difficult, she realizes the pause may be necessary. Chihaya adds that continuing like this would only make things worse. Rene quietly reflects on the importance of stopping, breathing, and thinking things through on her own. She thinks about Kotatsu and the possibility of him seeing her with Toma. The thought makes her uneasy. She imagines how deeply upsetting it would be for Kotatsu to realize she is going out with Toma. Even though Kotatsu is Toma's friend, she worries that it could disrupt the bond between them. To avoid causing pain, she decides to keep some distance. As she walks away, she contemplates how to handle her situation with Toma. She considers starting by not meeting him and keeping communication limited. Being in love feels strange and painful. Just imagining it makes her chest ache. She reflects on the intensity of these feelings, recognizing how overwhelming and inescapable they can be, and resolves to steel herself, thinking beyond the immediate moment. Despite her inner turmoil, she forces herself to act normally. When Toma greets her, she responds politely, careful not to let her emotions show too much. She notices small changes in him, like his scarf, and tells herself not to let trivial things distract her or cause unnecessary hurt. Summoning courage, she addresses him about practical matters, mentioning the cold. He hurries to fetch hot coffee, mindful of its temperature and sweetness. When he hands it to her, they exchange brief words of thanks. While observing him, she reflects on his steadfastness and reminds herself to remain composed. She carefully considers how to approach the more serious topics she must discuss. She plans to lead the conversation gently, arranging her thoughts to avoid hurting him abruptly. She mentions the upcoming exam period at school, noting that it will make meeting difficult for a while. She reassures him that she enjoys their time together and that hearing his voice makes her happy, but emphasizes the need to focus on her studies. Afterward, she notices his reaction and wonders if he understood the meaning behind her words. She feels a mix of relief and happiness, realizing that despite the necessary distance, their interaction has left them both brimming with joy. As they part, she helps him with his coat and they walk together for a short while. He reminds her to focus on her studies, and he leaves. Both of them carry a quiet sense of warmth and connection despite the challenges ahead. Later that night, Rene sits alone, searching for ways to improve her intelligence. She mutters to herself, frustrated by her own perceived shortcomings. At that moment, a message from Toma arrives, accompanied by a photo of the moon. She studies the image, realizing that his affection is being expressed indirectly, and silently scolds herself for not recognizing it sooner. Suddenly, Kotatsu enters, mentioning that he wants to watch television. Renee agrees, though her mind drifts, and she reflects on how unchanged Kotatsu has been since recent events. She notes that she has done nothing to upset him, so all she can do is accept the situation as it is. While watching, Kotatsu brings up a celebrity marrying someone much younger. Renee is caught off guard and feels a rush of nervousness, sensing the delicacy of the conversation. Kotatsu questions her about why she cannot be with him. She wonders if he knows about her situation with Toma. He reassures her that age and circumstances are not barriers, pointing out that their connection is strong despite their differences. As they discuss it, Renee counts quietly, processing the logic of their ages and the practicality of their relationship. He emphasizes that there is no reason for worry and reminds her of the long history they share. Renee steps closer, recognizing the complexity of the triangle she is part of. She acknowledges the delicate balance she maintains and feels the unexpected beauty in the situation despite its complications. In the winter of her first year of high school, she quietly reflects on how circumstances she had never anticipated have now brought them together in a way she never imagined.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.